Well, hello, everybody. Welcome back to Unslaved. We're happy to be back with you today. We have Hannah joining us today to talk about parenting and psychology. She's got an incredible channel, and I'm new to her work, so I'm super looking forward to this. I know Michael's been binging on her channel and taking lots of notes, and no doubt has a boatload of questions. So, Hannah, thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to join us. Welcome to Unslaved.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Absolutely. Well, maybe just a quick intro for our members that might not be familiar with you and where they can find your work.
Right. So I'm based in Switzerland, in Zurich, but you can find me on Substack. My channel is called Psychobabble with Spier. You can also find me under Hannah Spier, but that's where I am on Substack. I have a podcast and I also have a publication where I write articles. So it's a sort of hybrid setup.
Excellent. And what would be your background that got you into this research that you're reporting on?
Yeah, so I'm a medical doctor and I did my training in psychiatry. So I'm a psychiatrist as well. And I've also done a psychotherapy degree. So I'm also a psychotherapist. And I used to be a feminist. I was raised in Norway. So I'm Norwegian. And everyone there is a feminist, apparently. And so I had a bit of a journey. I worked when I was working as a psychiatrist, I was doing what everyone else was doing. I was doing what I was taught. And then slowly I started realizing that it wasn't helping anyone, that these methods that I was being taught and that I was myself applying, that they didn't lead anywhere. And so that patients I felt stuck in therapy. And I also started reading what my colleagues, so the psychologists that I was supervising, what they were writing about their patients. And then slowly I started realizing that something's wrong. We're not helping people as much as we're contributing to all this poor mental health that we're seeing. And then I had my first kid, and I went through this, all these biological realities. They just hit me like a tidal wave. And I just realized I'd been lied to, and I started looking into it and reading. And I listened to first Janice Fiamengo, and she just opened my eyes about feminism. And then I looked around and I just realized, hey, we have been indoctrinated in this feminist narratives. And that's also what we are teaching our patients when we're sitting there. We're just helping them live in these lies, live in this narrative that they'd been told. And that was, I think, much of the reason why they're still in therapy. So I went through that journey. And then now I have 3 kids. So I quit my hospital job. I work now privately. And I'm just trying to speak up about everything that I've seen about feminism in particular, because I really feel that is just an ideology of resentment that we are really we're teaching girls to build their lives on those feminist lies from they're very small. And a lot of them don't stand a chance.
Wow. Incredible. Michael, I can tell why you wanted to have her on. This is great. Michael, maybe you want to get into some of the questions that you had.
Well, yes. And again, as I said before, this is such a vast subject. There's no one podcast, can ever deal with it. And we have the institutions themselves, like you already know, that are although they're called psychological, they're really anything but. They're apologists for a particular set of ideologies that, has a long history. I mean, podcast after podcast after podcast can be done on that. And we've done it here on Unslaved. But coming more to your work, you must see that when you talk about parenting, non-coercive, permissive parenting, we can talk about that more in a minute. But when you see all of this, and then when you see people pushing back like yourself, it's falling on dead ears. It's the whole thing, even about feminism and how to unpry yourself from it, to awaken. There's so many good advocates now out there critiquing it, and yet for some reason this horrible juggernaut just keeps on going and crushing souls under its wheels. So what's your optimism? Are you optimistic about the way things are going, or the way things might turn out tomorrow? Is there a chance of change in Europe, in the world, where some of the real psychology comes in? Or is it just going to be more and more perversions of Freud, perversions of Adler, perversions of whoever, Carl Rogers, Alice, because so many people now are airbrushing the great people out of it and then sticking their own names on it with this horrid devolved type of therapy, borrowed from the masters, but repurposed for this hidden ideology. What is your underlying feeling of where we're going? Is it ever going to change?
Oh, such a great question. At first, I was rather pessimistic, but then, like just this article where you got in touch with me, where I wrote "The Rise of the Pathological Mother," it just went viral almost. It was just and I didn't anticipate that at all. So I do think that it's something that resonates. People see, and I do try to write in a way that people say, I've said this, right? This sounds familiar. So I try to sort of just put it in a clinical way, so not to alienate the women that I want to reach. So that's really I try to tailor it to women, while also telling them the truth, being a little strict. I keep being called a Karen, whatever that means. But to say this is, we have to be better. We have to be honest about what our duties are. I do think that's very important. We keep talking about what we expect from men. And so I'm just asking those difficult questions. What does it mean to be a good mother? And women are reaching out to me. You wouldn't believe it, but they are. I do offer one-on-one therapy sessions, and I have a large female audience, and they contact me. They want help. So I was pessimistic at first, and now I sort of see that people see that they've been sold a lie, and they want out of it. They are suffering. So that makes me hopeful. And also, if you see what's happening in Norway, that's very interesting. It's the most egalitarian country on earth. Everyone's saying, "Oh, you're so lucky and you're so happy there, and women have this and women have that." And now, young people in Norway, men and women, they're rejecting it. They're saying, "No, we want traditional values. We like traditional gender role." So the boomer generation, they're terrified because they built this society. Look, this is so great. And young men, it's like now when Trump got elected, there's national headlines: 47% of young men would vote for Trump, and everyone was just completely shocked. But we're seeing this is the trend that's all over Europe as well. And young women are following. They don't want to be called feminists anymore. The Gen Z, they want away from that. But at the same time, I do fear that the only people who are talking against feminism, that they're quite religious, that they're quite Catholic, and that I'm afraid that alienates many women. So that's why I'm just trying to stick to sort of giving to them clinically, in a way that they feel like they can onboard. I don't know if that answers some of your question.
Oh yeah, perfectly. Because again, that's a tricky one, but this idea of jumping from the frying pan into the fire, you're quite right. That is a pessimistic note on the possible future. That I've left feminism, but now I've gone into some other kind of mind control, or I've narrowed my focus. In order to escape one evil, I sort of go into another. ideology, which can be itself anti-human, anti-social,
Right.
truth. So
No, I
there
think
are
it's
dangers.
great with religion. I think it's great. I also argue for that religious, that clergy should take more of a part in treating mental health. I've spoken a lot at length about how I don't think a lot of patients belong on our side of the street. I think that they should get more help in churches and synagogues because they're void of meaning. That's why they're depressed and anxious. And after sitting in therapy for years, maybe they could find better help there. So I like this trend of that Catholicism is growing, and I see that positively, but I also see that it can alienate. So I'm trying to sort of be that place that for those people, for those women where that doesn't fit, they can find something here.
When I read your article, one is on Substack, and I highly recommend it. I've reposted it on mine. So, and I've also put several of your videos on my notes page. People must check it out. But one thing that jumped out is we've had a long-time guest on here called John Coleman. He's a teacher. He's not a homeschooler. He doesn't totally subscribe to that. And I just wanted to throw at you the reason, which I'm already totally sure that you're aware of. And he critiqued it based on this basis. He said that, first of all, he didn't want children to be educated by the mothers. He already saw a huge question mark there. And he explained it, and it was brilliant, and I agree with him. But even besides that, he also came out with something extraordinary. He said on one of the last podcasts we did with him, and it ties with what you said and some of the sort of implications of your article, and that is that the modern sort of he was talking about gays, homosexual men. That was his thesis, but it applies to other types as well. It can appeal to these incels. It can appeal to a lot of other guys as well. And he talked about, and it ties in with why I'm saying this is because it has to do with this aspect of the connection between psychology and religion. And he came out with a brilliant statement to say that a lot of this gay way, a lot of this pinko traditions that you're getting, and all of this transgenderism, actually, when you strip it off the top of it, you find that a lot of these males, and probably women, but mostly males, are actually what he calls monastic in their pure disposition. They're monastic. But since we don't have any facility for that in the modern world, they then stray off into other areas that are pathological, like the homosexuality and what have you. And the God is left out of it. Any spiritual component, you have to take that away to get where we are right now. He said if the spiritual was brought back, and he is a Christian, that's why he went along this line. And I find it, I'm not a Christian, but I found a lot of interest in this. He says, if that was brought back as a theme, then the man would understand what's happening with his sexuality. It's not that he's aberrant by the standards that this malignant society has created, that he's this or he's that. He would have a new component that's never been issued before, that's not even on the table. And that is his spiritual ardor for a sort of a quasi-monastic existence, where you're actually like men of old, contemplating the mysteries of the universe and trying to get closer to the divine. And he believed that a lot of these people who are lost, they're in their anomie and ennui, are running around these males, and they're going to the sexual, and they have this component needs to be plugged in. If it was plugged in, they drop a lot of the ways that they feel that their sexuality needs to go, and they would finally find their home. And he this was his umbrella thing for the reason why religion needs to be brought back. And by God, it seemed to me, and do you know how many men would relate to that? Realizing that the frustration in their life, even on the sexual level, is because here they are beating their heads up against a wall and trying to frame their disposition or their character logically, who they are, by ways that the world has said, here, you can use these categories. And yet there's this whole other spiritual category that's never even been brought to the table. It's lost to history. It's lost to time. I don't know what you thought about that. This